Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 kill team video, where today I'm going over one of my Patreon requested videos, my Imperial Navy Breachers guide. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Did you like the guide or not? Remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support as well. So yeah, for today's video, I'm going into my how to play / win with the Imperial Navy Breachers guide. So this is a kill team I'm very familiar with. Won a few tournaments, managed to place 5th at LVO 2023 out of I think it was 80, 90 players. Highest UK placing finish as the only UK player. But Imperial Navy Breachers are like a weird team at the moment. Currently, they've not been doing too well in the past 2 or 3 months from tournament stats. But they are actually an incredibly strong faction. And they kind of haven't changed since their release. They've had some minor nerfs, but they're still an incredibly powerful faction. So they are a 12 operative kill team consisting of Imperial humans in void armor because they're from the Imperial Navy. So they're like Navy SEALs in space with shotguns. They were originally released in the first box for Kill Team Season 2, Into the Dark, and were incredibly powerful there. They're a bespoke only team, which means they are an official kill team, not like a compendium team or white dwarf team. And for more in-depth review, check out my review on them because then I break down the kill team properly. So for the Imperial Navy Breachers strengths, they are all operatives with at least a 4-up save and with the benefits of void armor, which grants them rerolls against blast, torrent, and they ignore splash for the target. Right, or splash only affects the target. So they basically get a lot of inbuilt rerolls as well as just a 4-up save. So they are kind of resilient to blast, but not immune. But it's just you get 3 rerolls with a 4-up save, which is incredibly good. They are either 10 or 12 activations, so you can either have them as 10 activations. Commonly they played as 11 activations, but you can also do them as 12. So you have a lot of flexibility in how you want to run this team in terms of going up for activations, because as we know, having more activations is the best, but this kill team necessarily doesn't always want to be 12 activations, but being able to go up to 12 activations is incredibly powerful. You have access to lots of rerolls and ways to ensure hits / crits without rolling dice, which is, as you can tell, incredibly powerful because you're just eliminating variance. So you have a lot of situations where you just don't even need to roll dice. Your stuff just happens. And I'll get into that in a bit. They have great melee and close range power. Pretty much everyone has a hatchet, which is 3 attacks hitting on 4s, 3/4, which is ridiculous because it kind of makes this kill team way too efficient in combat. And then generally everyone has at least shotguns, which are 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 3/3 damage at red range, and a longer range profile at 1/2 damage hitting on 5s. But generally they're incredibly powerful at close range and melee. They have very powerful ploys, which ties into their ability to ensure hits. They have brace for impact. Brace for counterattack, sorry. They have attack order, defense order, close assault, which basically, while you're within blue of someone, if you roll 2 or more hits, you can turn a miss into a hit, which basically ensures a lot of hits. They have breach and clear. They have blitz. So blitz is the first time you activate an operative, you can retain a hit when you activate that operative during a breach and clear. And then if they are the first operative in general to activate, so if it's the first activation of the turning point and you're going first, you can retain, that you have activated, you can retain a crit and hit instead. So for 1 CP, you go, I'm going to activate and breach and clear here for free, and then I move up, and then all of a sudden I'm auto-retaining a crit and a hit. With close assault up, I'm already guaranteeing a hit, and then I have attack order, which grants me rerolls. So incredibly powerful there. You have ways to heal, ensure APL, just really powerful, very powerful ploys. You have multiple ways to group activate 2 operatives at once. So your normal breachers are 2 GA2. So you have basically 2 normal operatives with void armor and shotguns who can group activate, as well as the ability breach and clear. So you pick 2 friendly operatives when one activates that is within blue and visible. So importantly needs to be visible. So there is some downsides on Into the Dark and Open where you can't see what you need to do, but basically any of those 2 operatives can activate as if they're GA2. So you can also do weird things where you can activate one operative with a GA2 trooper and basically break those troopers into GA1. But it basically allows you incredible flexibility to it's called alpha striking, but it's basically first activation of a turning point, activate any 2 operatives and just delete 2 or 1 big threat. So incredibly powerful, and it works on any of your operatives. So you're not even like limited to specific GA1 operatives. You can activate GA1 and GA2, even your cat and skull. So very powerful there. You have stims, which is basically your only equipment, right? You have stun grenades, but be seriously, you're only taking stims. So for 1 equipment point, stims gives everyone +1 wound. So all of a sudden, all your 7 wound operatives go up to 8 wounds. You have 3 8 wound operatives who go up to 9 wounds, and then you have an 10 wound operative that goes up to 11. Just being able to boost yourself with stims for some reason is amazing, and that hasn't been changed. So all of a sudden you have 8 wound operatives with a 4-up save, re-rolling against blast and splash and torrent. So incredibly powerful. You have amazing damage negation. So not only do you have stims, but you have a ploy called brace for counterattack. So as long as you don't move or charge, your opponent is -1 damage to hurt you to a minimum of 3. It used to be a minimum of 2. So you can get around by like dashing, or even if you're not going first, you can just wait, even if you lose initiatives, because if someone charges in to fight one of your guys, they're now at -1 normal and crit damage. And when you combine with brace, all of a sudden it makes it really unappealing to charge your operatives or even engage your operatives, because you're still likely to survive instead of being killed, which is just crazy. You have great general and faction tac ops. You can take security and seek and destroy, with seek and destroy being amazing at the moment and security not being too bad. And then you have a really good selection of faction tac ops. Into the Breach is really good because it's a good end game objective by just getting within red of your opponent's kill zone, which stacks with playing seek and destroy and certain security tac ops. And then you have counterattack, where you breach and clear. So this is actually a really technical one, because basically when you breach and clear, if the first operative kills someone and then the other operative either kills another operative or controls an objective, you get a victory point. And if you do it again, you get it another time. So you can effectively only score this once every turning point. But what you can do is, especially if you're into squishy teams, move up with breach and clear, kill someone, like even if it's just a 7 wound operative, and then the other operative like moves onto an objective and captures it, or moves onto that same objective and captures it. Doesn't have to kill, and all of a sudden you ensure yourself a victory point. It's very powerful, and you just have a great selection of tac ops. Everyone is on 25mm bases, and your gunners and your endurant, and 25mm bases are the best in kill team because it's the smallest space you can have. It's only an inch effectively, so you can like dash onto terrain, like dash off buildings. You can't dash up on buildings, but you can dash off, so you can do move onto a building, shoot and dash off. Very powerful. You can base block better, incredibly good. And obviously this kill team is insane on Into the Dark, because they also have an equipment that opens a door, any door on the kill zone. So all of a sudden you can just open a door and start blasting, first activation, turning point 1. So just a very good kill team on Into the Dark. And obviously when you can breach and clear, you can safely set up 2 threats on different flanks and just wait to win initiative, or even if you lose initiative. So very strong. So for the Imperial Navy Breachers weaknesses, they are limited to 2 archetypes, right? So you only have security and seek and destroy. They're still good archetypes, but obviously kill teams that can select 3 or more archetypes, which should be rare, is unfortunately quite common, and there's a weakness here. So can't pick recon. I mean, I'm surprised. Usually Games Workshop recently have been giving everyone recon, but you are limited to 2 archetypes, so you have to learn how to play security and seek and destroy. You can't really just focus on seek and destroy. They suffer on open boards where there are less places to hide, because it becomes harder to set up your breaches and clears more aggressively up the board. And obviously you have very limited long range threat. So especially on open, you're more likely to be picked apart. You only have 2 operatives that have long range options, so you can just kind of be bullied until you get into range, and then by then you're whittled too much, so even brace doesn't do much. You have a very predictable play pattern, which is probably the kill team's actual most serious weakness. They basically live and die on how well your breach and clear does your first activation, right? So if it does amazingly well, great, right? But if your opponent survives or plays around it, you're in a really bad spot, because that's your biggest gambit for the turning point, and you don't have the ability to do it again. And you could just kind of have to hope you can survive your opponent's counterattacks. But then the other issue, because it's so predictable, because this kill team that's the most efficient way to play it, your opponent can kind of really easily prep into you, which is why a lot of our competitive players have kind of dropped breachers and moved away from them, just because they're not bad, but the predictability becomes a liability because your opponent knows what you're going to do every game, because it is the most efficient and mainly only way to play this kill team effectively. And then you need 2 boxes for a full roster, but I'll get into that when we go into the full how to collect the kill team. So for key operatives, it's kind of everyone, but obviously your leader is your main key operative, because your leader grants a free attack or defense order. You pick one to be free for the game, and basically if you pick defense order, you're a very nice player and everyone will vote for you for most sports. But the serious answer is you pick free attack order every turning point. So in the strategic phase, you can place a token, and every friendly operative within blue of that token can reroll an attack dice, right? So this is the problem when it comes into the predictability, because your opponent knows where you're going to be, but it's just a free 6-inch bubble of re-rolling dice. So it's amazing. So, I mean, there's lots of ways to equip your leader. I believe the genuine best loadout, most efficient, is like power sword and bolt pistol. But generally your leader sits back waiting to punish, right? And just giving you free rerolls. Your gunners are obviously key operatives because you get a melter and plasma. They hit on 4s. But your plasma is your long range, but your melter becomes amazing with breach and clear. But you can also do it on your plasma. And then you've got your las volley, which is 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, 3-4 relentless heavy, and is an amazing long range threat. So basically, if you're going into elites, you take the melter and plasma. If you're going into hordes, you take the las volley and plasma. So they're key because they allow you to play a bit more honest and punish your opponents who have just gone all engage against you. Then you got your Axe Jack, who is a powerful melee wall. So its ability is, if it does a charge, it can do a wade-in ability. So for 2 action points, it does a free charge and free fight action. And then if it does this, it gets splash 2 on its power weapon, but it also gets a 5-up feel no pain damage prevention roll. So all of a sudden, you charge in, have 4 attacks, hitting on 3s with a reroll with close assault, 4-6 damage, lethal 5-up, and then all of a sudden you've also got a 5-up DPR, so you become incredibly annoying to kill. So your opponent is actually encouraged to charge it first, but then if they charge it, they're going to take damage on the receiving end and then also just die. But if they don't charge you, you're going to charge into multiple operatives and just basically tie up their flank or front line. Then you've got your Grenadier, who is amazing, right? So he has a frag and crack grenade and then effectively a super crack, which is 4-inch range, so 2 white, but 4-6 blast white, AP1, limited use. And this guy is like one of your key things to blitz with, because basically blitz is a bit dumb, right? So you can also do this weirdly with the las volley. So because it counts as the first time it attacks against multiple operatives, against every operative, I believe it's a crit and auto hit. What you can do is just walk up and just blitz everyone. But then it's really weird with the las volley, because when the las volley does it, because it got fusillade, you can split 3 different targets to ensure crit and hit against 3 different targets. It's only 7 damage. But you can suddenly, like against 7 wound, 5-up save models, you can suddenly just kill those. But the Grenadier is incredibly effective at that. Just walks up, deletes someone, and then goes, cool. A bunch of operatives, and then dies itself. But very, very powerful. Then you have the Hatch Cutter, who can make any wall a door. So the key thing about the Hatch Cutter, except on Into the Dark, for 1 action point, it can make a door through a 1-inch thick piece of terrain. So a heavy wall that is blocking your entire kill team suddenly becomes a door for you, but your opponent can't use it. So he just grants you incredible utility. He's actually great with blitzing as well, because he has 4 attacks hitting on 4s, 5-6 rending, and brutal, because he's effectively a chain fist. So he can actually be surprisingly damaging. And then also in Into the Dark, you can spend an action point, so your opponent has to spend an additional action point to open a closed door because he welds it shut. So all of a sudden, especially if you want to roadblock your opponent, you can just like, oh, okay, I've secured this room, but barely. Now I'm going to stop you moving up. Like, just roadblock your team. So incredibly powerful. Probably the most useful operative on the kill team, especially on open. Then you've got the Cat and Geist Skull. These are 5 wound operatives, and they have different roles, but they're amazing utility pieces. So the key thing about the Geist Skull, he works with your Void Jammer. So what he does is the main way you do this is you breach and clear. Your Geist Skull effectively boosts for an action point in an infinite line within black of a spot you pick. So you actually have some variation to where you go, but effectively you breach and clear, the Geist Skull boosts up, and then you activate the Void Jammer, who then spends 1 action point to do an interference pulse. So you select an enemy operative within red of the Geist Skull that is visible to them, and roll a d6. On a free up, they're -1 APL, and you get to add +1 if they're in the Geist Skull's line of sight. And then you detonate. So everyone within white of the Geist Skull basically takes an EMP attack, which is 4 dice hitting on freeze. 2 free damage. Lethal is based on their armor save. So if they have a free up armor save, it's lethal 3 up, lethal 5 up against a 5 up save. And the key trick here is you put the attack order where the Void Jammer is, so the Void Jammer gets rerolls because the Void Jammer is making the shooting attack, not the skull. But all of a sudden, you basically use this combination to boost the Geist Skull up, stun someone, then blow up and kill a bunch of like weak stuff or like just great area denial because it's such a huge area of attack. And then you've got the cat who is controlled by your surveyor, and basically your cat places a surveillance token by your surveyor within red of it. And then enemy operatives that are within blue of the token and blue of the cat. So if the cat, basically if they're within 6 inches of the cat, they count as being engaged instead of having a conceal order. So really good at punishing elites. And then also you can use the cat to give someone +1 APL if they're within red of the cat. And the other thing is the cat also has a free dash, so it has ways to move up the field. Just very key utility pieces. And then you have the Endurant, who's like an amazing tech. It's only 2 white movement, so 4 inches, but has 10 wounds and a 2 up save, a relentless shotgun, and the shield wall ability. But it's like basically you can guard someone. But the key thing, even with a stim, he's up 11 wounds, and he just sits on points. Becomes really annoying to kill. He's got a shield bash, which is brutal, but also when he parries twice, and he can disengage for 1 AP. So all of a sudden he can just fall back and shoot for free. Very, very powerful. And then for how to collect this kill team, you will need at least 1 box, like guaranteed. You can kind of get away with the box because the issue is you get 2 gunner bodies, but 1 can be used for the Endurant, and the other body will build another gunner. But what I did was basically I ordered some extra bodies on like bit sites and basically put the spare gunner, made it from a spare body, trimmed the arms back a bit and put that on a 20mm base. But ideally you'll need 1.5 boxes, which is a common trait for most of the kill teams in the game. So you'll need 2 boxes, but as I said, because you only want some breachers and just a gunner, you can probably find it on bit sites. So, but that's how you want to do it if you want to collect a full kill team. You can make it from 1 box, but if you want full competitiveness, you will need 1.5 box slash 2 boxes. So for Imperial Navy Breacher tactics, you want to end turning point 1, as well as all other turning points, with 2 breach and clear targets on each flank of the board. Or even like near the middle of the board. You don't want them too close together, because the problem is if they're too close together, your opponent can just go space out from them, or they can like tag them more to make it less effective. But it's very like a clear example of this, as I said, is on Into the Dark, where you have 1 breach and clear setup on 1 flank and 1 on the other behind doors, because you can just play around that very easily, because when you breach and clear, you can get +1 APL. It's the best tactic of this kill team, also incredibly predictable. But having the threat of that is just what makes this kill team so strong. And you don't have to breach and clear, but you want that threat. So your opponent goes, oh, even if I win initiative, if I deal with this flank, I have to deal with that flank. Like, I'm still going to have to take the attack from that flank. And it's like, which one do I want to negate more? Do I want to negate the hatch cutter and the grenade, or do I want to negate the axe jack and the melter? Stuff like that. Because you want those 2 threats on opposite flanks. And when you set up this threat, you want 1 melee and 1 ranged. So it's kind of like not great putting your gunners together. Like, it's still efficient. Like, I'm not saying don't do it, but you ideally want like the threat of like a melee piece and a shooting piece to move up and do stuff, because like the melee piece can be activated second and just not rely on the blitz, which is what the first operative will be. Because if you do activate 2 shooting operatives at once with breach and clear, unless you're in a really optimal position, only one of them is going to benefit from blitz, and you don't really want to split it up too much. And as I said, you got breach and clear plus blitz plus closer slot with all your when every time you blitz. So basically, someone can go to 1 APL plus 1 APL. If they don't have plus 1 APL, there will also be auto retaining a hit and a crit. If they're within blue, they will automatically turn a miss into a hit. And with attack order, you can reroll 1 or 2 of your misses, right? Because you reroll an attack dice of the same value. And the key thing here is you can be a bit greedy if you're blitzing because, well, I mean, at the moment you can't reroll your attack dice when you breach and clear. But in general, when you are when you're blitzing, sorry. But in general, let's say I breach and clear, and then I return a crit and a hit, and then I've got a hit as well on my other 2 dice. I can turn 1 into a hit. But it's like when you're attacking normally. So let's say my shotgun rolls in, and I roll 3, 3, 1, 2. I will re-roll the 1 first, so that turns into a 3. And then if I've got the 3 there, then I would re-roll the 4th hit, because at worst, I'm getting another hit. At best, I'm getting another crit. So what Close Assault allows you to do is when you're not blitzing, because you can't reroll when blitzing, you can effectively fish for crits, which is really, really powerful. So then another tactic is going up to 12 activations. Most of the time you'll be 11 because you're taking 2 armsmen, but there's a weird interaction with the Void Jammer. So the Void Jammer only has special rules when you take the skull. So if you just take a Void Jammer, he's a shotgun guy who is GA1, so that pushes you up to 11. But if you drop a GA2 trooper, you can take the skull, which then boosts you to 12. You know, it's like, it's very weird how well, it's like, if you take the cat and the skull, you go up to 12 activations. Like, you can invest more for just having 10 activations with 2 breach and clears, but ideally you're playing at 11. But it's worth remembering, because a lot of people go like, why would I take the Void Jammer? The Void Jammer is just a single shotgun guy who is a GA2, and it's like, that's why you take him. That's why you take him. But that's the great thing about the cat and skull. And then as I said, the Geist Skull nuke, where you basically breach and kill with the Geist Skull and Void Jammer. So you boost the Geist Skull, then you activate the Void Jammer, who will then give someone -1 APL. And then if he's within range of the attack order bubble, then will blow up. It's like great into weak hordes, because especially, you know, if they've got like 4 up saves or 5 up saves, it's a good way to fish for damage, and it punishes your opponent, because it's a really big blast, because you measure from the edge of the base of a 25mm base. It's got quite a big bubble of area of effect, and you can also stun at the same time. And then the cat is great of punishing into elites, because as I said, it increases your range of giving +1 APL. It has a free dash. Both the cat and the Geist Skull move 8 inches. So like 4 white, and the cat is like your go-to tool against elites, because elites are this kill team's like one of their weaknesses. But when you can just go, oh, have you moved up too far? All right, so you've moved up too aggressively, so I'm going to change you to I've got 12 activations. I'm changing your operative to an engage order, and I'm just going to pepper him away until he dies. Because you have to remember, if you're taking the cat, you're going to be 12 activations. So all of a sudden, you're just even like having 6 more activations to set up the cat, which is really cool. Not for your opponent, but cool for you. And then using Brace for counterattack to punish aggressive opponents, because basically you can also spend a CP for defense order, but literally you just go, okay, I pop Brace, especially on Into the Dark. You just go, okay, you've won initiative. Both of these doors are closed. I'm just going to Brace. Like, if you charge into my lines, you're generally not going to have the damage to clear through me. More modern kill teams that I'll get into in a moment have a way around this, but generally lots of teams struggle to effectively hit you. So it becomes this waiting game of just waiting for the breachers to engage. But if you just stall out with Brace for counterattack and then attack with your last 2 activations, your opponent's just been stalling off for nothing. So really just the general tactics here. So for hard, bad matchups, Veteran Guardsmen, that's just a bad matchup. They outrange you. They have more tools to deal with you. It's better on Into the Dark, but on Open, you will just have way more... They'll have way more threats. Like, you do get rerolls against their demo mine, and it goes down to 4-5 from 5-6, but generally it's just a world of hate for you and pain, so you don't like Veteran Guardsmen. Then you've got Pathfinders. Once again, especially on Open, Pathfinders just decimate you. Sure, their guns go down to 3-4, but because they don't really use Blast, your rerolls don't really kick in, and they just kind of mess you up. Like, you don't have much tools to answer to their firepower. and especially if they go 3 rails, because all of a sudden their mortal wounds will get past your brace. Their rails go down to 3 free damage, but for every 5 up crit they roll, you take 2 mortal wounds, so it kind of mitigates that. So it's a rough matchup. Commandos are still a pretty hard matchup, right? You don't really have ways to ensure crits outside the blitz, and then your axe jack. So if they kill your axe jack early and they survive your blitz, they will just kind of chip you out. They won't kill you. Like the big problem is infiltration commandos. Seek and destroy commandos you actually generally high and beat, but infiltration commandos will mess you up. Galloppox are just a rough matchup. It's weirdly where you want to go more shotguns to just try and shotgun a Nightmare Hulks to death. But they have so many, like, they don't care about your brace. They'll charge in, tie multiple operatives, trap people with their tentacle monster. Like, they have so many tools into you guys. Like, it's like, especially as Freiskurse's flamethrower is now just free. He can happily walk in, flame a bunch of you, and just go like, oh, I've got 6 hits. Like, you're dead because you take 9 damage now. Like, it's just crazy. Like, that's a really tough matchup. Then you've got Felgor Ravager. Felgor are like the best kill team at the moment. So like Frenzy, you are struggling to kill them like after they've frenzied, and the problem is because they can force crits, they don't really care about your brace for counterattack because they have so much high damage. So it just kind of sucks there. Then you've got Legionary. Nurgle Legionary is actually quite hard for this kill team, especially if they're a cagey Nurgle Legionary, because they will happily go 2-4, turning point 1, and then go 3-3, and then push for 4-2 in the end, because they can just grind you out. They'll go for multi-charges, they'll double fight. So a really tough kill team there. Chaos Cult, just because they'll throw torments at you, they'll throw crack grenades at you, they have lots of ways to chip you down. So they are also a really tough kill team to play. And then also Blooded. They'll have lots of bodies. They don't care who they throw away. If you charge in, they'll shoot you. They have the Ogren, which is really hard to kill if you don't get a blitz off on it. They have just lots of tools to mess you up. Blooded are great into this kind of matchup, so it kind of sucks for Breachers here. Like, you would have to go for an early kill on the Ogren and try and kill all their melee threats, but then they still have a lot of shooting threats to outrange you. So, key matchup tricks, as I've already covered, you've got the cat for Elite, because literally you effectively have 5 activations after your opponent activates to set up the cat, which will stop your opponent pushing up, especially on Into the Dark where there's hardly any cover. You take your Melter and Plasma versus Elites, and you take the Las Volley and Plasma against Hordes. That's the main tactic there. And you take the Geist Skull versus Squishy or High Save Hordes, right? Because basically, that Geist Skull moving up, blowing up, or like anything that's 5 wounds or less is probably actually going to die to the Geist Skull, especially if you've got rerolls up. So you've got key things there, like it's what the Galloppox don't like. It's like great into higher attack circle, and especially anything with 7 wounds and a 3-up save. So it really messes up Novitiates because they will have 4-up saves. It's actually really damaging to Votan because they have a 3-up save, right, and 8 wounds, so they hate that as well. So it's just a really tech tool piece. You do lose an operative when you blow it up, like you lose an activation, but if you can cause enough damage, it's great. If it doesn't, it kind of sucks, but you can always have the tool of just stunning someone. But those are the key matchup tricks. As I said, going to 12 activations versus Elites just to super punish them, or 12 activations against 11 activation teams. So notably, Galloppox are 11, Kroot are 11, and Exaction Squad are 11. So you can go up to 12 to out-activate and get to the edge. So just very powerful things there. So playstyles, you effectively have one playstyle, but it can be done in 2 ways. So as I said, you've got aggressive rushdown, setting up at the end of every turning point for at least 2 different targets for breach and clear, and you just keep pushing until your opponent's gone, right? You're just like, cool, I'm just going to breach and clear for my life. And it's an effective way to play. It has carried the team for a long time. And then you've got slow and purposeful, where you're using brace and your bodies to slowly move up the board with security. So you can take like central control and escort operative, because then if you take your faction tag up 2 for gain within red of your opponent's kill zone edge, especially on diagonal deployments, all of a sudden you can just move up a chunk of guys slowly while controlling the points, like holding off until turning point 4, and then all of a sudden like moving and dashing up with a bunch of breaches which your opponent can't kill. So that's basically the main way to play the kill team. which is, as I said, one of its main weaknesses because it's very predictable. Because unfortunately, this is the most efficient way to play this kill team, and you can't really do it any other way. And if you try to deviate from it, it's not going to be bad for you. It's just going to be less efficient. And the problem, this kill team maximizes on its efficiency from breaches and clears and when it attacks. So when you lose that efficiency, it just loses its power. So for the Imperial Navy Breacher Guide overview, they're a very powerful horde team. They're close range. They are technically the most accurate kill team in the game because they have close assault up and with attack order. So remember, with close assault, if they're within 3 inches of blue of attacking someone, if you get 2 or more hits, you can turn a miss into a hit. And this works after reroll, so you can choose to reroll your dice first or not, and then basically proc all your hits. So you're very likely to roll 4 hits every time you attack if you're going in for close range kills. They're an amazing close range kill team, do amazingly well on Into the Dark. It's their most powerful zone. They can tech up between 10 to 12 activations, generally 11 activations. You can go to 10, but I don't know why you would go to 10 unless you're trying to like minimize the amount of overwatches your opponent gets, but 12 activations is just being able to go to is great. You have good tac ops, like great faction tac ops, seek and destroy and security, which is really good. Everyone is effectively 8 wounds at least because of stims. You have void armor. Your very predictable play pattern, but just that's the main weakness, right? A predictable play pattern and powerful hordes that beat you, but you're really, really good. It just kind of gets boring to play after a while because you're just doing the same thing every game. You're either pushing up slowly or pushing up aggressively. There's no real middle ground, but they're a very dependable kill team, right? They're fine. Like they just get boring. Like I got bored of playing them. A lot of our competitive players who mained them got bored of them or just got tired of them being so predictable because then there was less counterplay in terms of adaptability when they were trying to beat opponents. But overall, really powerful kill team. Just surprised they're not doing great at the moment, considering they're so powerful, but it's probably due to kill teams basically like Felgor, who are just a really bad matchup for them. But Imperial Navy Breachers are really good. It just, you have to kind of give up your range presence and learn how to properly space and the sequencing of everything. That's just the biggest hurdle when learning this kill team, because they're quite forgiving, because remember, everyone has a 4-up save. You get a reroll against blast, torrent, anything that attacks within a point, and you also are immune to splash unless it's the original target. So they are very forgiving to play, but you don't want to bunch up, right? You can, but don't, because if you're still a 4-up save, so if your rerolls fail, you just lose a bunch of breaches even with brace. But they're a very forgiving team to play. They're like an optimal team because they minimize the need for rolling dice. So they're just really, really good. But that's pretty much it from me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Did you like it or not? Did you like my guide? Is there anything I missed out? Is there anything more you'd like me to cover or other kill team guides? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, and a affiliate at Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'll quickly shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crit, I have Willax, Tom, Super Cow, Sam, Nick, Kenzie, John Thomas, Graham, Freeman, David, Dave Meets World, Dad of Golden, Ben, and for the veterans of the crit, I have Sam. Just to thank you so much for all your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. And obviously this is a Patreon requested video, so my patrons requested this. I do one every month for my patrons, and yeah, it's fun. I've been meaning to do more guides. Like now the Balanced Data Slayer is out, I'm trying to fire through these. I'm just so behind on guides. I'm doing more on my podcast, but like my podcast is more relaxed, long form guide. I try and be more concise here, so hopefully I didn't go too long, but obviously there's a lot to talk about with breaches here. But I'll be back with more videos soon. I've pumped out 2 videos this week and a live stream, so I'm going to take a bit of a break. But yeah, I'll be back soon. And remember, no matter what happens in the deep, dark depths of space, there's always a chance to win as long as you can roll a crit.